If you can turn on the video, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna devotees, Dandavat Pranams. Welcome to Bhagavata Sevaya. Sorry about the delay. I'm sorry, Prabhu, to you as well. Today we'll be just continuing with our reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 29, verse number 61 will be given. We had association of His Grace, Svayam Prakash Prabhu. Prabhu, over to you.
ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। Hare Krishna. Today we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, 29th chapter, verse 61st. शयनम् इममुत्सृज्य श्वसन्तं पुरुषो यथा कर्मात्मन् आहितं भुङ्क्ते तादृशे नेतरेण वा। Word word meaning: Shayanam, lying down on a bed, Imam, this body, Utsrujya, after giving up, Shwasantam, breathing, Purushaha, the living entity, Yatha, as, Karma, activity, Atmani, in the mind, Ahitam, executed, Bhunkte, enjoys, Tadrishena, by a similar body, Itarena, by a different body, Va, or. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The living entity, while dreaming, gives up the actual living body. Through the activities of his mind and intelligence, he acts in another body, either as a god or a dog. After giving up this gross body, the living entity enters either an animal body or a demigod's body on this planet or on another planet. He thus enjoys the result of the actions of his past life. I'll a little bit read and then we'll discuss, and that's how we'll have it. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapatakamelam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. नीलाचलनिवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्रसुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरो दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यईश्वरम्। Hare Krishna. So before starting, I would like to seek the prayers and blessings of all the Vaishnavas, assembled Vaishnavas. Although yes, our Sankarshan Nityam Prabhu yesterday, I was trying to see that if it can be postponed. But then somehow he said that nobody is there, so you have to take. So under his order, trying to share some things, whatever I could assimilate from the purport of Prabhupada and his teachings. So here the Narada and Prachinavarhi, the discussion is going on, the Puranjanopakhana, in that the whole, the Narada Muni is trying to now tell directly the philosophical conclusions of the scriptures to Prachinavarhi in this verses. And especially in this verse, he is telling how whatever we are right now is based on our past activity, and whatever our future will be based on our present activity. So there is a whole in gist of the summary of this whole present verse, which we are going to discuss today. Shayanam imam utrajya shwasantam purusho yatha karma karmatman ahitam bhunkte tadrishine netarena. Shayanam imam ustrujya, when we sleep, at that time, in one sense, we have given up this gross body, in the sense we are not aware of the external things, what is happening, and we are in deep sleep. And there in the dream, we may enter, we may have different situations or different experiences which may undergo. Sometimes very happy, jovial, sometimes sad, sometimes ghastly, sometimes fearful. Different experience we undergo, and that manifests even in the external body also. But still we are completely, to a greater extent, unaware of our external body. We feel when we are in the dream, we feel as if that is the real. And sometimes when we are fearful, we perspire. And sometimes when we are happy, we smile. But when these things happen, little bit when we come to consciousness, then we may realize that, oh, I'm in a dream. But still, sometimes we are in a half dream state. That means we are seeing the dream, we know it is not real, but still we don't want to come out of it. But once we come out of the dream, then we understand that, oh, it was just a dream. It was not real. Although we underwent so much of pain, pleasure, happiness, sorrow, all the combination of all these things, but then we don't pay much attention. The same way, on a bigger scale, if we see what life we are living is also in one sense a dream. Because dream means what which is not real. So it is just a temporary phase, as well as it is not the reality in itself. The same way, in one sense, the present life is also like a dream, that this is not the real life which we are supposed to be. Our real, this is to be in the spiritual world, which is the eternal, and that is the real thing. But right now we are here in this material world, undergoing, just like every day we sleep and we get up in the morning, and then again when we get up, we give up, we forget the dream what we have seen yesterday, and we continue our work. The same way, every time we take a new body, we don't remember, we forget what I was or what I had in the previous, and then continue as if afresh. So that's why Acharyas also tell that it is also like that. Although we are leaving, but still it is a in one sense dreamy state. That's why we have to come to the real life, that is giving up this gross body and coming to the platform of the soul, where we are actually on the our real nature, or as a soul we are Satchidananda Vigraha, that is the nature of the soul. So coming to that platform, that is the reality. Till that time, it is unreal. So recently in the youth program where we had, one boy asked some questions. So Kamalochan Prabhu answered in a way. So he said, do you know what you were 50 years ago or 20 years ago? He was maybe around 17, 18, 19 years. He said, what was your name in the maybe 25 years ago? He said, I don't know. So what will be your name after 60, 70 years? He said, I don't know. That means you don't know what you are before, what you are what you will be in the future. So that way, in one sense, the present is also illusion. That means we don't know what is the reality. So the same way, but at the same time, Prahlad Maharaj says, getting this human form of life is very rare, and it's one should take the maximum benefit of the present human body and try to use it for the sake of the welfare activity, so that the soul, one can come to the platform of the soul. So when we try for that, that is the actual really. That's why Prahlad Maharaj also says in this verse that Kaumara Acharit Prajno Dharman Bhagavataniha Durlabham Manusham Janma. This human form is very rare, but although very rare, and it is temporary. Adhruvam. Adhruvam means temporary. Although it is temporary, but it is arthadam. Arthadam means it's very valuable, full of meaning. Why it is full of meaning? Because in this human form, there is an opportunity for us to give up this material world and go to the spiritual world, or come to our real nature. Whereas in any other species, out of the 8.4 million species, except the human species, all 80 lakh species, they act based on the instinct. But human has the opportunity to think and decide what is right, what is wrong, and what is to be done, what is not to be done, and take the right decision. So that is the advantage in the human form. So we'll read from Prabhupada. Prabhupada writes, although the root of distress and happiness is the mind, intelligence, and ego, a gross body is still required as an instrument for enjoyment. If you see all this, in one sense, when it comes of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, many places he says that how we should be equipoised in the Shita Ushna, Sukha Dukkha, Mana Apamana. So if you see, Shita Ushna is related to this gross body, whereas the Sukha Dukkha, Mana Apamana, these are all the subtle aspects. Just like, just imagine that a person, he has on a tour, he's traveling around and with his whole family, and he's living in a luxurious place, and now he's just sitting for having his lunch. Suppose if he's a devotee, then just imagine that he is in the Mayapur with his whole family, and then he has got the Mahaprasadam plate of Radha Madhav directly, and he is about to relish it. So many items are there. At that time, like now, if this person gets a message that the company has sacked him from the job, or he gets any pain, like the news of somebody in difficulty, his near and dear ones, or somebody comes and speaks in a kind of sarcastically, like no, he is just about to take, like no, you're eating like a buffoon or something like that. Although there is so much of things in front and like the enjoyment is there, but immediately he cannot enjoy the things which are there in the front. Although nothing has changed externally, everything is same. So that means, where is the real happiness or the distress? The mind becomes little perturbed, disturbed, and then even the same thing, same place, everything is same, but still he cannot enjoy the relish what is there in the front. So that's why Prabhupada is writing that although the root of distress and happiness is the mind, intelligence, and ego, it is all these things are in the mind, but at the same time, to enjoy those things, the gross body is required. It is an instrument. It is not in itself can enjoy. So, because even a dead body also has a gross body, but that cannot enjoy or act in any way. The same way, this one is the soul, through the medium of the mind, intelligence, and the ego. It is said that we have the gross body, subtle body, and the soul. The soul is like a person, and the subtle body is like the banyan or the inner garment what we wear, and the gross body is like the external garment what we wear. And the subtle body, in that to the false ego, is the fevicol which binds the soul and the the gross body in this one. It is like a fevicol jod, a toot, like which cannot be removed. The same way, amongst all the things, the false ego is the one last which gets separated. And the moment the false ego is gone, that means the soul is now ready to go to the spiritual world. So, Prabhupada, right, the gross body may change, but the subtle body continues to act. Unless the living entity gets another gross body, he will have to continue in a subtle body as a ghostly body. So when the Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita also that Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya navani grinati naro prani. Just like when the gross body is no more usable, just like we use a shirt and if it is torn, we throw away and wear a new garment. The same way, the gross body is rejected by the soul and it wants to accept the new body. But in case if the living entity doesn't get the gross body, then it has to be in the continue to live in a subtle body or in the ghost body. Especially the ghost, one doesn't get a gross body when one has when his life has ended before its actual period. If suppose he is supposed to live for 75 years and he committed suicide at the age of 35, so he has still the time he was supposed to live. So this is not the natural way of living the body. So then he has to be in the ghostly body. But at the same time, the ghost body or the subtle body, it is the mind which has the mind is compared to the storehouse of all the previous experiences. So then the mind is the one which carries. It is like it has a blueprint of the next birth. So whatever we have done in this life, based on that, we will be given the future. And whatever we are present, it is because of our past. So that way we cannot blame anyone else for our present situation, nor we need to be lamenting, oh, right now I am here, I am like this, so in the future also it will be like, no. By changing the present, actions, activities, way of thinking, so we may be able to change our future consequences. So till that time, if it doesn't get, he has to be in the ghostly body. And the ghost has the desires, but it doesn't have the external gross body or the organs to enjoy. One becomes a ghost when the subtle body acts without the help of the instrumental gross body. But at the same time, the subtle, to enjoy, he needs the gross body, but at the same time, he acts through the subtle body. That's what sometimes many may have the experience of ghostly attack, or they try to enter into the body of another person so that through them they can act or fulfill their desires. So then one may ask that how is that? Already the soul is there. Yes, the soul is there. It is like going and capturing. Sometimes the thief comes and a person is there in the house, and still he makes him the kaidi, or then he dominates him. The same way when the soul is a weak, or in terms of the mentally weak people are, that time the other soul can come and capture over them. As stated in this verse, Shayanam imam ustrajya shwasantam. The gross body may lie on a bed and rest, and even though the machinery of the gross body is working, the living entity may go into a dream and return to the gross body. When he returns to the body, he forgets his dream. Similarly, when the living entity takes on another gross body, he forgets the present gross body. The conclusion is that the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and ego creates an atmosphere with desires and ambitions that the living entity enjoys in the subtle body. So it is a subtle body. That's why in the future also Prabhupada writes a very beautiful statement of what exactly is the meaning of the liberation. It is a liberation from the subtle body. And if you see the whole Krishna consciousness movement, or what Prabhupada has given, or the process what is given, is also not to change the gross body or external body, because gross body is based on our prarabdha karma, which cannot be changed. It's not that right now I'm 5 feet 3 inches. I cannot change it into 7 feet, or I cannot make myself into like a Hercules, very big. So certain things are fixed. Like I cannot make myself look like a very dark Negro, or a person who is born in Africa cannot make himself look like a American white skin. So those things are based on the gross. In the Nectar of Devotion also it mentions that the high intelligence, or the beauty, or good health, born in a wealthy family, these are all the consequences of doing who has done a good karma in the past. And if somebody is poor, or if he is very sickly and very ugly, unintelligent, and he doesn't have much all these things are related because of the previous sinful activities he has got it. So that's why it is not that the gross body can be changed. It is based on the prarabdha, and it will be there till that end of this life. But what one can change is the consciousness, or the things, inputs what we have given to the mind. Because where do we get the scripts? It is based on what we have see, what we observe, what we hear. Jnanendriyas, basically what we take input from all the inputs. So that's why the Krishna consciousness is a process by which we try to avoid all the unwanted or negative things to take in from our senses, and try to take in the positive sound vibrations by which we can have a positive experiences stored in the mind, so that based on that we'll get a future body. So that's why if you see we hear that the children born in Krishna consciousness are not ordinary. If you compare an outside child and a child born in a devotee family, there will be so much of gulf of difference, which we can literally we can observe. I remember when I was in Pune temple, one day I was just gone out for some harinam or something, and we just came inside. Just at the entrance, there was a tap which is kept for the devotee to wash hands or something. And two small children, maybe 3 years, 3.5 years, 4 years, they were playing around and they came near the tap, and it was a drinking tap was also there next to them. So the one boy, I think he is not a devotee, or he may be just a visitor. He just opened the tap and he just directly put his mouth to the tap. Immediately the other devotee boy was there. He said, "Hey, we cannot make juta. We should take in the hand and drink it." So I said, amazing, nice to see the rest of the culture. So the same way, when the right, proper things are fed in the mind, then eventually that takes one to the next life. They are all stored in the mind. And there is one famous psychiatrist, Dr. Richard Lipton or something, it comes, Lipton or something. So he says that 90% of our personality is formed before the age of 7. Whatever we have, inputs we have got till the age of 7, our rest of the life depends on this first 7 years. He says because till almost 6.5, 7 years, the subconscious mind is very active and the conscious mind is very not much active, it is inactive. And keeps observing all behavior or how we speak. So what is there in the subconscious mind? So based on that, whatever is stored, that only he throughout the life he acts. And he says that's why it is very important to give the right culture, right input to the children up to the age of 7. If they get a good examples or good inputs, that becomes his life. And that's why even the Prahlad Maharaj also says, Kaumaram Acharyat Prajo, right from the very tender age, one should start practicing Krishna consciousness. Because the children, more than they learning through hearing, they learn through seeing. If they see right actions, right way of behavior, right way of speak, they catch the same things. If they see the wrong things, then they catch that. And he says, it's after 7, the conscious mind becomes more active and the subconscious mind becomes inactive. And practically after some time, subconscious mind is not easily accessible. Because of which, afterwards, no matter how much one tries, to change him is very little difficult, to change his personality. Then again, he says, then if at all somebody wants to change, what is the way? That is, he says we have to feed the right input to the subconscious mind, but subconscious mind is not easily accessible. And he says at night, the conscious mind is inactive and the subconscious mind becomes active. And that's why we have to give the input to the subconscious mind in the night. And that's why these days in the internet, you may see many of the affirmations. It has become quite famous, giving affirmations to the mind. And it can be positive, negative both. People may want to give the affirmation of wanting to become wealthy or whatever. But as a devotees, we know what affirmations to give or what will be good. And Mahatma Prabhu has this one, affirmations for good japa. That giving positive, that they say that he says that by putting a earphone and giving the positive affirmation while sleeping, that goes to subconscious mind and slowly that becomes the personality. So, and he says one way to do this is only way to put anything into the subconscious mind is the repetition. There is no other way to put into the subconscious mind. That is once after the 7 years. When I heard this one, then my conviction in the scriptures became more strong that what the Shastras say is nothing but the Vaidhi Bhakti, wherein the person doesn't want or like he doesn't have the inclination, but he follows it based on the direction given by the Guru for his pleasure, under his direction. Although he doesn't like, he gets up early in the morning, although the mind may be giving so many reasons not to chant, but still he chants. And by doing it regularly, continuously, it becomes his nature, and automatically he will be naturally take the names of the Lord. So that's why that how it is very important to what he is telling is also the giving affirmations to the mind. It is nothing but the giving the right input to the subtle body, because that carries the desire in this one. So if you carefully study, then the science supports what the scriptures are telling. It's not the scriptures support the science, but the science supports, or the scriptures are correct. Science may help us to make it understand. The conclusion is that the subtle body, mind, intelligence, ego creates an atmosphere with desires and ambitions that the living entity enjoys the subtle body. Actually, the living entity is the subtle body, even though the gross body apparently changes, and even though he inhabits the gross body on various planets. That it is not because we are made based on the subtle body. That's why, like here it is mentioned, the Prabhupada writing that actually the living entity is in the subtle body, even though the gross body apparently changes, and even though he inhabits gross body on various planets. All the activities performed by the living entity in the subtle body are called illusory because they are not permanent. And Prabhupada here writes a golden statement. Liberation means getting out of the clutches of the subtle body. Many times when we say liberation means giving up this world and going to the spiritual world. But actual liberation is getting out of the clutches of the subtle body, which carries the wrong notions, or because of which one may be born again and again with different external situations. But that's why a devotee who is, and this also comes, no? Iha yasya hare dasye karmana manasagira nikilashvapi avastasu jivan muktasa uchyate. That iha yasya hare dasye karmana manasagira, through his, while staying in this material world, through karmana manasa, that is through the words, through the actions, and through the mind, if he is engaged in the remembrance of the Lord and the service, even then nikilashvapi avastasu jivan mukta sauchyate. He is a jivan mukta. He is actually liberated soul, even while staying in this material world. So Srila Prabhupada, I was reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is traveling to South India, and he is going to the house of Kurma Brahmana in the Kurma Kshetra, and where he says that I want to commit to my dear Lord. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, no, you stay back here only. And Nirantara Namalaive, take the name of Lord continuously, and you will not be bound by because Kurma Brahmana says, I am being baffled by this material world and the things of this material world, the tribulations. He says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, you chant and nothing will affect you. So there in the purport, Prabhupada writes, it doesn't matter whether one stays in Vrindavan, Mayapur, or in the Western world. If his consciousness is fixed in the Supreme Lord, even while he is staying in the Western world, he is in Vrindavan, if his consciousness is fixed in Vrindavan. So that's why Srila Prabhupada also named the institute as International Society for Krishna Consciousness. It is not nothing to change our external things. What we need to change is the consciousness, or the way of thinking, and this one. So that way, by changing that, the external also will change. Liberation from the gross body simply involves the transmigration of the soul from one gross body to the other. Because even though the gross body may be changed, it may go from body of a human to the body of an animal, or animal to the body of a human, or even if it goes body of a human in this world to the higher planetary systems or the lower planetary systems, but that doesn't mean that he has got liberated. When the mind is educated in Krishna consciousness or higher consciousness in the mode of goodness, one is transferred either to upper heavenly planets or the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha planet. One therefore has to change his consciousness by cultivating knowledge received from the Vedic scripture instructions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the disciplic succession. If we train the subtle body in this life by always thinking about Krishna, we will transfer to Krishna Loka after leaving the gross body. So that's what Krishna tells in the Shloka Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yoveti Tatvata Tikva Deham Punarjanma Nityam Iti Sorjana. So therefore, what is our real call for action, or what we need to do in this life is that one has to try to change his consciousness by cultivating the right this one. And training the subtle body is what is Krishna consciousness, or the purpose of Krishna consciousness. Although there may be wrong scripts which we might have taken inside, and then because of it there may be so many desires, and that comes as a vega, or like that pushes us. That's what Arjuna asks Krishna, Krishna, why don't, like, no, although I don't want to do something wrong, but still sometimes from within there is so much of push that as if, like, no, I cannot resist this. Then, like, no, Krishna tells that Kamaesha Krodesha Rajoguna Samudbhava, it is because of the Rajoguna passion. Like, no, and it is Vairinaha. Like, no, it's an enemy. So sometimes, although we may not want to think something wrong, but because of the previous experience, it may be coming so much like a flood. We become actually like unable to stop it or something. We'll be wondering, how is that? But if you carefully see, then because we have fed it so much in the past, like, I was just after coming from Tirupati for 2-3 days, so many different thoughts, and like, now before coming to bhakti, all those things was coming to me so much that I was wondering, like, although physically I was doing all the activities of bhakti, but the mind was practically in the very nasty things. But still, like, that, why? Because the previous, all the impressions are there. So now the work is to remove all those wrong impressions, and that is through the process what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given, the chanting of the holy name, which is the Cheto Darpanamarjan, which is the easiest process for us. And if you see carefully, the whole Bhagavad Gita is more or less Krishna is telling to Arjuna not to change the externals, change the internal things. That he didn't tell that, like, no, set up the external things or something. No, you change the way of seeing the external things, by which you will not be bewildered, and why you should fight. And even though you are going to kill them externally, their body is going to be killed, but then that is not the end of everything, because it is just a part of the, like, drama. So that way the whole Bhagavad Gita discusses about the subtle body. Like, that's why Krishna tells Manmana Bhavat Bhakto, that in that also he says. And then again, so many shlokas are there in the second chapter also, about how so many places he says about that, how one should be in equipoised in the Sukha, Dukkha, Tata, Mana, Pamana. In all those things he should be equipoised. That equipoised is not in the external or this one, but in the state of the consciousness of the mind. So that's what very much important. So Prabhupada writes, thus the change of the gross body is not very important, but the change of subtle body is important. The Krishna consciousness movement is educating people to enlighten the subtle body. The perfect example in this regard is Ambrish Maharaj, who always engaged his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna. Savai Krishna Padara Vindayo, the whole 14 things, how he utilized everything in the service of the Lord, connecting everything with the Lord. Similarly, in this life, we should always fix our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, who is present in his Archa Vigraha, the incarnation of the deity in the temple. We should also engage always in his worship, If we engage our speech in describing the activities of the Lord and our ears in hearing the pastimes, and if we follow the regulative principles to keep the mind intact for advancing in Krishna consciousness, we shall certainly be elevated to the spiritual platform. Then at the end time of death, the mind, intelligence, and ego will no longer be materially contaminated. So that is the whole, the project of Krishna consciousness is nothing but this. And because changing the externals is changing the internal is not so easy directly. That's why we should start with the external things. When we engage in the service, it's not the first we have to, if you see the chariot and the driver example, in that the senses are the gross. Senses, it is connected to the mind, and that is connected to the intelligence, and the soul is there. So when we use our body first in the service of the Lord, then one can think of engaging the mind. Otherwise, just trying to engage the mind, because we are not in the mode of goodness, because of which there is so much of passion, and the body needs some engagement, one cannot engage. That's why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also used to tell that, yesterday we are reading in the morning just before japa, that how a neophyte devotee or a practicing sadhaka should not try to go to secluded place, sit and chant. So this comes where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells to Kashi Mishra that please give me a place where I can go sit and completely do the smaranam of the Lord. There Prabhupada immediately gives a caution that this is not for this only for the advanced devotees like Haridas Thakur, who can constantly think of the Lord. But ours is not that. We cannot do that. We cannot imitate that. We should engage our physical, external, gross senses in the service of the Lord. Then slowly when the senses are engaged, then it becomes easy to engage the mind. Otherwise, if one tries to imitate to engage the mind first, then it becomes very difficult. That's why Prabhupada used to tell so many people want to go to Radha Kund and sit and chant, but they cannot. They'll fall down. And once one of the senior devotee was mentioning that in New Vrindavan there was a devotee, he wanted to say that he was telling that I want to go to sit and chant in Mayapur. I want to be in the Dham. I want to chant 64 rounds, because there is the main purpose of Krishna consciousness is to absorb ourselves in the remembrance of the Lord. He went there. He was there for some time, chanting every day 64 rounds and singing and everything. After some time, when the devotees were traveling in the US, one day in the fuel station or in the petrol bunk, they saw him, and the devotees felt as if, hey, is he the same devotee, and went near him and he could recognize he's the same. Then he said, "Hey, Prabhu, how are you here?" He said that, but you went to Mayapur for chanting. He said, "Yes, I have chanted sufficiently for my rest of my life." That means he could not continue there. That's why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to tell that it is kevala kaitava. It is just cheating. It's not. That's why we should engage our body in the service of the Lord, and then slowly that remembrance will be given by the Lord. And once the senses are purified, then it becomes easy to control the mind. Otherwise, if you try to engage the mind, but all the 5 horses are trying to go in 5 different directions, and the mind is has the previous experience of enjoying mentality, the intelligence will be in doldrums. He will be in the not in a position to do anything. So that is a way how to train. The living entity is present, and the mind, intelligence, ego are also present. When the mind, intelligence, and ego are purified, all the active senses of the living entity becomes spiritual. Thus, the living entity attains his Satchidananda form. The Supreme Lord is always in his Satchidananda form, but the living entity, although part and parcel of the Lord, becomes materially contaminated when he desires to come to the material world for material enjoyment. The prescription for returning home back to Godhead is given in this Manmana Bhavat Bhakto Madhyajimam Namaskuru Mami Vaishis Yuktvayavam Atmanam Matparayana. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely will come to me. And Srila Prabhupada has given us this opportunity by which we can engage all our passion and all our external senses in the service of the Lord. If we take any one example, one has a passion to do something, then yes, go out and distribute books, or build big temple, or conduct big Rath Yatra, big programs, preaching programs. Or if one has the inclination, like, then make the dresses for the deities, or clean the temple hall, or what not is there, he has given, so that we can be fully engaged in the service of the Lord. And then when we are young and when we have the strength in the physical strength, that time if we engage our body in the service of the Lord, then because the senses are purified, later days when physically we cannot do much, that time it becomes easier to focus the mind on the holy name. Otherwise, the passion is there, the desires are there, but now there is no physical strength to do, then the mind control becomes difficult. That's why yesterday in the class, Srila Prabhupada was telling, I see in Italy and many places, people are 75, 80, but still they go to the brothels to see and enjoy with the opposite sex, because the body has become weak, but the desire has not gone. So that's why what we need to work is to work on this one. And if you see in the Srimad Bhagavatam also, how it is the not the gross body, but the subtle body, and in the mind and the consciousness. This is so many examples. It's all related to how they saw the external situation. If you see Parikshit Maharaj and Shringi, situation is the same. Like when he was cursed, the Parikshit Maharaj took in a positive way, understanding it is the Lord's arrangement, and he was peaceful and he proceeded and he went to the spiritual world. Whereas Shringi had to stay back. And in case of Ambarish Maharaj and Durvas Muni, he didn't do anything. And then Durvas Muni, he felt offended. He didn't do anything physically. He just took Charanamrita and he felt offended and he wanted to kill him. But then Ambarish Maharaj just was remembering the Lord, and he thought of the Lord and he was protected. So that there was no any physical descent, but still how everything at the mind, at the level of the mind. If you see Chitraketu and Parvati, Mother Parvati, he just laughed, thinking that, oh, only Lord Shiva is a person who can make his wife sit on his lap and still give a class to all the renounced people on the renunciation. No one else can do. With that, he just smiled, and Parvati took the other way. How can he laugh at my Patidev? The whole incident happened. And if you see Govardhan Lila, Indra and Vrajavasis didn't have, or Krishna knew that he wanted to break the pride of Indra, but at the same time, he didn't do anything to Indra externally. He was not just given the offering which was given before, and he felt offended. So that everything is just why I'm telling is at the level of the mind. And if you see this very nice example of Diti and Indra, the whole when Diti wanted to have a child who will kill the Indra, that time by the process what was given by the Kashyap Muni, when she followed it, she becomes so much purified by following the process that at the end, she tells to Indra only that I wanted to kill you. And the Indra also tells that I came for the same purpose. And because her heart got purified. The same way, the process which our Acharyas have given, Srila Prabhupada has given, if you follow, then one fine day, our hearts also may get purified, and then we'll be able to engage in the service of the Lord. And whenever they want, the Lord may take us back to the spiritual world. So thank you very much. Any corrections or any inputs or reflections? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams Prabhuji. Thanks for the very nice class you given. Prabhuji, beginning when I read Bhagavad Gita 2nd chapter, I was thinking this body is not important at all. But as we go deeper and deeper, we are understanding how important it is to carry on the devotional services. And you have explained it very nicely. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
because the body is the means by which we can interact with this material world, and till the time we are in this material world, we need the help of the vehicle so that we can render service and then purify our this one, because even to chant we need the mouth and the strength in the body. So recently, when His Holiness Kadam Kanan Swami Maharaj was physically present during the last days, he was able to chant, and the updates had come in that. I just read that Maharaj was able to chant, and slowly it was taking more and more time for Maharaj, because physical health becomes down. And then once Jayadeva Maharaj said, although he was not able to chant physically, but he was chanting in the mind, and he was trying to move the beats. So that way, yes, the pure devotees, they don't need the help of the body to remember Krishna and all. But at least for us, we need this physical body so that we can engage in the service of the Lord. That becomes our meaning. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the wonderful class today, making us realize that we should always remember Krishna. Thank you for that. In fact, I was just recollecting when normally the general parlance of people, how they say is, if you have nothing to do, they say then do at least take Harinam or something like that. People normally put the other way around. So even the pious people think, if you have nothing else to do, then you can always take the holy name. Whereas in life, it is very different. We should always take the holy name and do others more incidental. So that's very, it's very different understanding. Thank Prabhupada for that. Devotees for actually, bringing us in this particular path. Thank you, Prabhu.
Very nice class, Prabhu. And this liberation also, we got a new meaning of the liberation coming out of the clutches of the mind, subtle body. Thank you so much.
Prabhupada, some of the sentences are Prabhupada, some of the this one are really very, what you can say, golden statements or the this one that the way Prabhupada presents, which makes us clear, because many people cannot make the subject matter easily understandable by the common people. Even with all due respects to all the glorious devotees who have translated the later part of Bhagavatam, if you see, up to that 10th canto, the 14th chapter, where like Prabhupada stopped his commentary, and where the Prabhupada disciples started. What the Prabhupada's commentary is there, that to understand that, and the same commentary by Prabhupada disciples, it needs a little bit of more lesson to understand the 11th canto and all. Whereas Prabhupada, this one is so simple, so clear, and so easily understandable. That is the glory of Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, any other comments or questions? Prabhu, I think we can just end the class now. Yeah, Prabhu, we'll take the Vaishnava pram. Panchaka.
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo
Namo.
Anantakoti Vaishnavindra ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Thank you very much, Sankarshan Prabhu, for giving me an opportunity to contemplate or a little bit spend some time with the Shabbat. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for your association. Thank you, devotees, for joining the call today. Hare Krishna. Sankarshan Prabhu, you are the host, so you'll have to end the session. Hare Krishna.